Hi, I'm Ruth.
And I'm Darren.
Of the Rad Adventures Network.
And this is SciFi Spectaculars.
Hi, and welcome to the first episode of SciFi Spectaculars.
In this series, we're planning to cover some of our favorite science fiction movies, TV shows, and books.
The episodes in this series will be short summary-level discussions as opposed to in-depth reviews, and hopefully that approach will give you just enough information to know if you're interested in a title and want to try it out yourself.
We've been planning this series for quite a while, but we knew that we wanted the first episode to be about Star Trek, so we thought we would save the episode for the show's 60th anniversary.
We'll be talking about the original television series, the movies, the many spin-offs and sequels, as well as conventions and special events we've attended over the years.
Some of you who have listened to our podcasts in the past might recognize some parts of this episode.
We have a podcast called Trekker Talk that covers the excellent sci-fi comic series Trekker by Ron Randall that is about a 23rd century bounty hunter named Mercy St. Clair.
Back in 2016, during Star Trek's 50th anniversary, we did an episode of Trekker Talk where we covered the comic series Star Trek Unlimited, which features art by Ron Randall. In that episode, we also talked about our early history with Star Trek to celebrate the anniversary.
So for this first episode of SciFi Spectacular, we're revisiting parts of that episode and adding more about our history with Star Trek and love of the franchise, and we hope you enjoy listening.
And if you enjoy this episode, we have a couple of other Star Trek-themed episodes coming out during the next couple of months to continue celebrating the 60th anniversary.
So look for another episode of Sci-Fi Spectaculars that will be all about Star Trek comics, and also an episode of our show Convention Correspondence that will be about the huge Star Trek convention in Las Vegas.
SciFi Spectaculars is part of the Rad Adventures Network.
If you enjoy the show, please consider checking out our other shows that are available through most podcast apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music, as well as YouTube.
Trekker Talk, as we mentioned earlier, covers the adventures of 23rd century bounty hunter Mercy St. Clair from the sci-fi comic Trekker by writer and artist Ron Randall.
Xenozoic Xenophiles follows the adventures of Xenozoic Tales, featuring Cadillacs and dinosaurs by writer and artist Mark Schultz.
And Warlord Worlds is devoted to the comic creations of writer and artist Mike Grell, including the Warlord, Jon Sable, and Green Arrow.
But now, let's talk about Star Trek, right after this promo from another podcast you might enjoy.
Worlds would live.
Worlds would die.
And DC Comics would never be the same again.
Crisis on Infinite Earths. The crossover so epic it reached every corner of the DC multiverse. Join DC Dave
And Doug Adamson as we discuss The Monitor Tapes,
a Crisis on Infinite Earths podcast.
Find us on your favorite podcatcher and join the discussion at themonitortapes.com.
There has never been a time that the original Star Trek TV series wasn't part of my life. It's the show I can remember having to get home in time to watch. The earliest drawings I did as a kid were of Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock on various adventures. Honestly, no one other than me could probably recognize they were drawings of Kirk and Spock, even with the aid of seeing one figure was always colored gold and the other was always colored blue and had oddly shaped ears.
Now, I must disagree because I've seen some of those drawings in boxes from your parents, and I could recognize who those characters were.
Yeah, you're generous. As they say, love is blind.
Hey, I see just fine. Well, with my glasses.
We lived in a very rural area long before the proliferation of cable channels, and while Star Trek did run in syndication in our area for a while, it was generally gone from the channels we got by the time of the 10th anniversary in 1976. The nearest towns of any size were the Tri-Cities of Bristol, Kingsport, and Johnson City, and they were each an hour and a half away. Thankfully, my parents would take me to the Tri-Cities occasionally, and there was a great bookstore that we would stop at, and over time I was able to collect the short story adaptations of the episodes that were written by James Blish, so that I could revisit the episodes. And we would visit my dad's family near Washington, D.C. for a week every summer, and I could always count on Star Trek being on a channel there, so I would get to watch 5 episodes in 5 days. That was great.
I didn't have as much exposure to the TV series early on. My father was a science fiction fan, but he and my mother were both readers, and we rarely had the TV on in our house when I was growing up. So while I was reading and enjoying sci-fi books, I didn't really watch much sci-fi TV or see many sci-fi movies. I was familiar with the series, but didn't have a strong connection to it at the time.
I always loved the animated series and honestly considered it to be the show's 4th season. It featured the original voice cast and the episodes were written by writers from the original series. The only difference was it was animated, and I had no problem with that. There was a period of time when the animated series was on that I could watch Star Trek 6 times a week. The live-action series Monday through Friday after school, and the animated series on Saturday mornings. It was fabulous. Like I said earlier, it was a rural area, and it was in the mountains of southwestern Virginia, so we would get lots of snow during the winter, and would miss many school days due to bad weather. Then when spring would come, we would have to go to school on Saturdays to make up those missed days. I can remember being so disappointed going to school on Saturdays because I wouldn't get to watch the animated Star Trek. There were many models and toys out during the 1970s. As a kid, I used to play Star Trek with my good friends Jeff and Chris, and to this day they still remind me that I would always insist on being Captain Kirk. I can remember putting together models of the Enterprise and the Klingon battlecruiser with my dad, as well as models of the phaser, tricorder, and communicator. I used to carry the communicator in my back pocket when I would go to school, until that day I forgot to take it out of my pocket and sat down on it, crushing it to pieces.
Oh, that's so sad.
I had some of the Power records, which I'm sure will make Rob and Chris happy, and I had most of the Mego Star Trek figures, as well as the Bridge playset, and still have them today, though the elastic has sadly broken in most of the figures.
That's sad too. Your poor toys.
And speaking of models, our good friend Steve is a terrific model builder and frequently puts together model ships from the Star Trek universe, and he always shares photos of his progress with us. They're always superb. Of course, there were also Star Trek comics in the 1970s from Gold Key. I've mentioned before the single grocery store with a single spinner rack in our small town, where my mom would take me to buy comics, and occasionally I could find Star Trek. The issues featured great covers with photos from the series, but inside the characters and stories didn't really resemble Star Trek very much. But that didn't bother me. I was a kid and it was Star Trek and I loved it.
And later on, I remember buying you a bunch of back issues of DC and Marvel Star Trek comics in the 1980s and gave them to you. And I remember how happy it made me that you didn't have any of those issues in your collection.
Star Wars came along in 1977 and suddenly science fiction was a very big deal, and Paramount started talking about making new episodes of Star Trek for syndication. The new episodes were going to use the title Star Trek Phase 2 and feature most of the original cast, but Leonard Nimoy wasn't going to return as Mr. Spock. There was no internet then, but I can remember how exciting it was to stumble onto tidbits of information about the upcoming series during 1978. Of course, that TV series never came to pass, but instead transformed into Star Trek the Motion Picture in December 1979. As I mentioned, it was a small town in a rural area. We did have a single-screen cinema in town, but it was only open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and only played second-run movies. It was too small of an area to get a new release movie. So I had to wait for 2 weeks until Christmas vacation started when my parents drove me 90 minutes to the Tri-Cities to see the movie. Say what you want about that movie, but I can still remember the thrill of watching the characters I loved and seeing the Enterprise on the big screen. I was enthralled for 2 hours.
Then came Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, in 1982. Darren and I were dating at the time, and I was fully aware of his Star Trek fandom, and I was trying to catch up so I could understand what was going on.
My dad liked gadgets and bought a VCR in 1980, long before they were common. We didn't have much money, but that was something he really wanted, and he saved for it until he could afford it. I remember the VCR cost almost $1,000, and blank tapes were $25 each, and in 1980 that was a lot of money. However, it was great because Paramount released 5 Star Trek VHS tapes, each containing 2 episodes, along with Star Trek the Motion Picture, and my parents bought those for me for Christmas.
And that meant there were 10 episodes of Star Trek I could watch, as well as the first movie before seeing The Wrath of Khan. I was impressed by the writing for the show, and of course the characters. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the interactions among Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Having watched very little television growing up, I didn't know a show could be that good. I was hooked. Of course, everyone loves Star Trek too, because it's a great movie, and I loved it too. It's full of adventure with strong performances and a heartbreaking ending. It was the real beginning of my Star Trek fandom, and we saw each of the other movies with the original cast as they were released.
In 1985, Paramount started releasing the entire Star Trek TV series on VHS in order. They would release 10 tapes at a time with one episode on each tape for about $15.
To celebrate the home video release, there was a video store in the Tri-Cities that actually got Scotty himself, James Doohan, to come to the store for the release of the first set of tapes, and we were there. He was the first member of the cast we met, and he was delightful, and we got a Polaroid picture of us with him that he signed.
There were several months in between the release of each set of tapes. I was in college and working part-time, and I would save up so I would be ready to buy each new set of tapes when they were released. It was a struggle to save up when other expenses would get in the way, but we managed to collect all 79 episodes over the years as those tapes were released.
And we kept those tapes until the series was later released on DVD, and then sadly sold them on eBay because we needed the room in our house.
In addition to releasing the series on VHS tape in the 1980s, Paramount also released the episodes on Laserdisc, and that new availability of the series led to a Star Trek fan club forming in the Tri-Cities.
One of the fans who helped start the club was the director of the planetarium at Bays Mountain Park in Kingsport, and he was collecting the series on Laserdisc. So the club meetings would be held once a month on Monday nights, and we would watch an episode of the series on the giant dome of the planetarium and then discuss the episode afterwards. That was great.
It was a 90-minute drive for us each way, but we would go almost every month because it was a fun club and a great group of fans.
Yes, we made many good friends there, including Robert, Jimmy, Mike, and many others. Then came the fortunate night when a travel agent came to the club meeting to talk about a new cruise that was coming up. It was Trek Cruise 87, and it was going to be a chance to spend a weekend with most of the cast of the series cruising around the Bahamas.
I went straight home and told my parents all about it. My mom and dad were both supportive of my fandom, and they got the information about the cruise and started looking into it.
We were going to get married in 1988, so Darren's parents gave us that trip as an early wedding present, so we got to go on Trek Cruise 87.
My dad was also a Star Trek fan, so my mom and dad went along with us, and all four of us got to spend an entire weekend cruising around the Bahamas with most of the cast, including DeForest Kelley, James Doohan, Nichelle Nichols, George Takei, Walter Koenig, Grace Lee Whitney, Majel Barrett, Mark Leonard, Robin Curtis, and writer David Gerald.
There would be discussion panels out on the deck of the ship with each of the guests, as well as opportunities to go on excursions with them when we were in dock. I remember touring an aquarium with George Takei and Nichelle Nichols. Such fun.
In addition, Nichelle Nichols and Grace Lee Whitney both had concerts in the ship's theater one evening. That was fantastic.
Plus, I remember running around the ship with a copy of the script for Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, getting autographs from most of the members of the cast on the cover.
And we still treasure that copy of the script today.
And on the last day, as we were disembarking, I got a big hug from Mark Leonard. It was a magical weekend.
Neither William Shatner nor Leonard Nimoy were on the cruise, but we got the chance to meet the two of them in 1991, when they went on a tour together to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the series. We happened to be in Bowling Green, Ohio at the time, and one of the stops on their tour was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we went to listen to their many stories and memories.
There were no autographs or photos, but we were thrilled to have gotten the chance to see them in person.
The early 1990s was also a good time for Star Trek video games, and our two favorites were Star Trek 25th Anniversary and its sequel, Star Trek Judgment Rights.
They were puzzle-based adventure games with great graphics for the time. Each game was divided into multiple episodes, so it was almost like each game was another season of the classic series.
Another thing we enjoyed during the 1990s was that they began releasing audiobook versions of many of the Star Trek novels from the 1980s and 1990s. We used to buy those on audiocassette and listen to them on long drives.
Some of the audiobooks were even read by James Doohan and George Takei, which was a treat. It was lots of fun to listen to those books.
Over the years, we've attended many other conventions and have had the opportunity to see most of the members of the cast again. And in 2009, we had the chance to see William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy together at DragonCon, where we were finally able to get their autographs and get a photo taken with the two of them.
It was wonderful to see the two of them together again. They told so many funny stories. It was obvious they were good friends because of the way they would joke with each other, and they would often finish each other's sentences.
We also had a chance to see William Shatner's live one-man show Shatner's World a couple of years ago. It's a wonderful way to hear his entire autobiography firsthand, punctuated with great one-liners, while fantastic photos and film clips are shown on a screen behind him.
It's really a great show.
It really does feel like we were celebrating the 50th anniversary just yesterday, and now it's already the 60th anniversary.
Of course, there's lots more to Star Trek than the original series, with numerous spin-offs, sequels, and movies. There are now nearly 1,000 episodes of Star Trek so far, in addition to the many movies.
We think every series is important because every show is someone's first Star Trek, and every show is someone's favorite Star Trek. Of course, we realize every show can't be everyone's favorite, but we love this franchise, and we're not going to spend any time saying anything negative about any Star Trek show.
There's so much to love, so why focus on the negative? We're here to celebrate the 60th anniversary.
The best description of this series I've ever heard is that Star Trek is a restaurant, and we all have our favorite dishes, but we don't have to like everything on the menu for it to still be our favorite restaurant.
That's so true.
We talked earlier about the animated series, and even before that premiered, there were plans for other Star Trek spin-offs. For instance, most fans know that the Season 2 finale, Assignment Earth, was a pilot for a series that didn't happen. Then in Season 3 of the original series, the character of Dr. Mbinga was introduced, and the plan was for him to star in a spin-off series titled Hope Ship. He was going to leave the Enterprise to join his brother, who was the newly appointed captain of the USS Hope. The series was going to be a sci-fi medical drama, but when the original series was canceled, plans for that spin-off were sadly dropped.
We finally got another Star Trek series in 1987 when The Next Generation premiered, following up on the success of the movies featuring the original cast. The series was very successful and led to 18 years of continuous new Star Trek episodes for fans.
The Next Generation ran for 7 years, with the next series, Deep Space Nine, premiering partway through its run, and the two shows overlapped for a couple of seasons.
The next series, Voyager, premiered partway through Deep Space Nine's run, and those two shows then overlapped for a few seasons as well.
Then as Voyager came to an end, the prequel series Enterprise began, telling of the early days and founding of the Federation.
It was a great time for Star Trek fans, and there are many things to love about each of those shows.
Following the end of those shows, we then got the reboot movies, which are sometimes called the Kelvin movies, which feature the original series characters in an alternate timeline. 3 movies were made, with the third premiering in 2016 during the 50th anniversary.
We really love the cast in those movies.
Then in 2017, we got what is currently called the modern era of Star Trek, when the new series Discovery premiered on the CBS All Access streaming service that was later renamed Paramount+. We became subscribers the day Discovery premiered to celebrate the return of Star Trek to TV.
Following Discovery, we got the Next Generation spin-off series Picard, which brought back many classic characters from that show during its 3-season run.
We also got the hilarious animated comedy series Lower Decks, which is a favorite of ours. You can really feel the love for the entire Star Trek franchise in the writing and performances for that fun show.
We also got the excellent young adult CGI animated series Prodigy that featured the return of several characters from Voyager, including Janeway, Chakotay, and the Doctor. It's an excellent show and deserved to run longer than its 2 seasons.
Strange New Worlds is a prequel series built around the very first Star Trek pilot episode, The Cage, from the 1960s, and it features Captain Pike, Number One, and a young Mr. Spock.
It's another favorite of ours, and the series has introduced many other characters from the original series, including Uhura, Chapel, M'Benga, and Scotty, as well as both James T. Kirk and his brother, Sam Kirk.
And for the 60th anniversary year, we got the new series Starfleet Academy, which gave us a group of first-year students at the Academy and features the return of Engineer Jet Reno, who is one of our favorite characters from Discovery, as well as the Doctor from Voyager, which is always a treat.
The series features an excellent cast.
In addition to all of these recent movies and shows, we've also been lucky to attend many great Star Trek events and conventions in recent years.
We joined the USS Kitty Hawk a few years ago, which is the local chapter of the Starfleet International Fan Club.
We were first introduced to the group back in 1991, but we were just starting graduate school and the timing just wasn't right for us then. But it's been nice to revisit the group now.
We've made several really wonderful new friends through the group and enjoy chatting at the monthly meetings and getting together for special events.
The group has even grown and several members started another regional group called the USS Ocracoke, and we've enjoyed visiting some of their meetings as well. It's a really nice group of fans and friends.
One of our favorite recent events that we were able to attend was Exploring New Worlds at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. The exhibit launched in 2021 to celebrate both the 55th anniversary of the series as well as the Jewish heritage of Leonard Nimoy.
The exhibit was very successful and was extended into early 2022, and we were able to visit just before it ended. The exhibit featured original props and costumes from almost every series and movie from the original series up through Discovery.
Highlights of the event were the original captain's chair and helm from the bridge of the original series, along with original models of the Enterprise, Klingon, and Romulan ships from the Next Generation.
There was even a fun interactive exhibit where you could stand in front of a green screen and act out a scene, and then watch a video which showed you transporting down to a planet and investigating.
It was a truly amazing exhibit.
On another trip to California, we were able to visit Vasquez Rocks National Park. It is a large area located about 30 miles north of Los Angeles and features unique rock formations, and it has been a popular filming location for more than 100 years.
Any Star Trek fan will immediately recognize the prominent jagged central rock formation that became famous as Kirk's Rock, following its use in the classic episode Arena from Season 1.
The area was used in several other episodes of the original series, as well as in The Next Generation, Voyager, Enterprise, and Picard, and in the movies The Voyage Home and the 2009 Kelvin Timeline movie.
Many other movies and TV shows have filmed in that area, including The Lone Ranger, Blazing Saddles, Planet of the Apes, Zorro, The Fugitive, F Troop, Kung Fu, and The Wild Wild West.
GalaxyCon is a local film, TV, and pop culture convention in our area, and in recent years they have been featuring many Star Trek guests.
William Shatner is a guest almost every year, and we always go to see his Q&A panel.
In addition, the event has featured several Deep Space Nine guests, including Armin Shimmerman, Terry Farrell, and Andrew Robinson.
And one year the convention brought in most of the cast of The Next Generation, including Brent Spiner, LeVar Burton, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, Denise Crosby, and John Delancey, and we were able to get a terrific photo op with all of them.
As we mentioned earlier, we've been longtime attendees of DragonCon, which includes the wonderful Trek Track, which is organized and hosted by Voyager star Garrett Wang. The Trek Track always features great Star Trek guests and has excellent Q&A panels, and we enjoy it every year we're able to attend DragonCon.
However, we decided it was finally time to attend the world's largest Star Trek convention, which is Star Trek Las Vegas, or STLV for short, and it's sometimes called Trek to Vegas.
The annual 5-day convention has been going on since 2002 and features more than 100 Star Trek guests each year, including celebrities, writers, producers, composers, scientists, and more.
A big highlight of the convention is the Saturday night concert, which features the Nevada Pops Orchestra, playing 2 hours of Star Trek music, often with Star Trek composers as guest conductors.
And the convention ends on Sunday night with the Star Trek Rat Pack, which features Star Trek cast members singing parodies of popular songs intermixed with stand-up comedy routines in a Rat Pack-styled show.
We've also been lucky to get a few other group photo ops with the cast of Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds.
While we can't attend every year, we've now been a few times, and we plan to return whenever we can.
And the last event we'll talk about is the Star Trek Original Series sets that are located in Ticonderoga, New York.
Lifelong Star Trek fan James Cawley spent years researching original blueprints, studio photos, paint formulas, and lighting techniques to accurately recreate the full-scale sets, just as they appeared at the Desilu studio in the 1960s.
While the sets are reproductions, they have been rebuilt using the same materials used for the original sets. And the sets feature many original props that have been purchased to be featured on the sets to make the experience as authentic as possible.
The sets are open year-round, but fans should be aware that days can sell out during the busy summer season, and times are limited during the winter and off-season, so fans should book in advance before making the trek to Ticonderoga.
We absolutely loved our visit a couple of years ago and plan to return in the near future. They have recently acquired the original Galileo 7 shuttlecraft that will be included in the tour starting later this year, and we definitely want to see it.
And with that, we'll bring our discussion of Star Trek to an end.
We hope you've enjoyed listening and sharing our love of Star Trek.
Here's hoping Star Trek continues to be part of our lives for many long years to come.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you all for listening, and we'll be right back with our wrap-up and contact information after this promo for another show you might enjoy.
According to the latest report from FalsifiedStats.com, there are currently 12 million active comic book podcasts clogging up the internet superhighway, and 2.3 million new comic book podcasts are being created every single day. If you're looking for something a little different, then let me tell you about Mike's Comic Shop Roadshow. Mike travels the globe and visits comic shops along the way, talking to the owners, or really just whomever happens to be minding the store that day. And it's through these conversations that you'll meet some wonderful people and learn how comic shops are run in places like Murfreesboro, Illinois, and Liverpool, New South Wales, Australia. So check out Mike's Comic Shop Roadshow, a truly unique comic book podcast among billions of the same old, same old. Find it now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Mike, and I approve this message.
Before we go, we want to provide our contact information.
You can write to us directly at radadventuresnetwork@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the name Rad Adventures Network.
You can also listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and most other podcast apps.
You can also find the show on YouTube as part of the Rad Adventures Network.
That's RAD, R-A-D, which is short for Ruth and Darren.
And you can always visit radadventuresnetwork.com, where you'll find all of the episodes of all of our podcasts, including our main shows, Trekker Talk, Warlord Worlds, and Xenozoic Xenophiles, as well as our other podcasts, including Sensational Sleuths, Continental Comics, Super Secret Spies, Convention Correspondence, and more.
If you like the show, please consider leaving a review. While you won't find a specific place to review SciFi Spectaculars, we hope you'll leave a review under Rad Adventures Network. Every review helps the podcast be more likely to show up in search results. And on YouTube, we hope you'll subscribe to the channel and give us some likes on the videos.
This episode featured sound effects from the album Star Trek Sound Effects from the Original TV Series. If you're a Star Trek fan, we recommend this fun album.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you will come back next time for another new episode of SciFi Spectaculars.
Thank you for listening. The views expressed on this show are solely ours.
The theme music is Through the Galaxy and is licensed from pond5.com. We make no money from this podcast and no copyright infringement is intended.